it allows me to go right from the dashboard to the landing page, right to what I'm working with. And from there, if I had a list of my work orders that I wanted to print or export, I can go ahead and select those. If I needed to mass edit and assign some of these to some people, I could select the ones that I wanted to sign. I can click the mass edit icon, and I could click the selected, and then I could choose to assign those to a particular person if I wanted to go ahead and do that. So there's some value in that. It lets you work from your dashboard, but if you also need to do something with those items other than opening up one at a time, obviously I can click the pencil to just go through them one at a time. But if you needed to do something with multiple ones of those, or just see that in full screen, if you had a portal with a number of different smaller portals, this lets you see the portal in a bigger window. So that's a way to do that as well. Something else we added, and I'll talk a little bit more about requisitions. Our requisition module was added to CMS4. We have the ability to put requisition, save searches, and save views on there as well. So now I have the ability to open those in requisition. Going back to our work orders module, let me go back to work orders. It's going to show me all my active work orders in the Bettis tower. Some things we've done here, a couple of changes. They may seem minor here, but I know they're things people have been requesting. One of the big ones is when you're doing a work order search and you click on a lookup, we added the select all icon down here, or button down here, which lets you select all the values in there. By nature, if you leave those blank, it will search for all priorities. So you don't need to go into all of them and click select all. If you want to search on all the categories, all the priorities, all the trades, all the locations, you just leave those blank. But for instance, if you wanted all the priorities except low, you don't have to go through and click blank, high, normal. You don't have to go through and click each one of those types of things. I'm going to go ahead and show you there. A good use case is if I go in category, if I want to see everything except my preventative maintenance work orders. Previously, I'd have to go and select all these. Now I just click select all, scroll down to preventative maintenance, uncheck preventative maintenance, and go ahead and click save. And now I have all my categories except PMs done as well. So, all right. Another thing we did, let me exit out of here. When you're creating or editing a work order, I'm going to go ahead and click on the create. If you have levels defined where you have to pick a certain number of levels on a location, this actually won't let you pick anything below whatever those levels are. Previously, you'd be able to select a location, you'd click medical center, and you'd still get a message that would say all levels of locations aren't selected. So this enforces that right here at the location, so it saves you a couple steps. It also gives you a bigger area to click on. If I click on medical center, it'll expand it. And then if I click on, once I click on the second level, whatever level is required, when I click on that, it would select it. So I still need to click on the arrows to expand the ones that I want to go ahead and select. If I want to go drill down a little bit more and go to the first floor, go to the room. If you wanted to enforce that room, I could set my configuration to have 4 levels required. But right now I just have it configured for 2 levels required. So I only have to pick the building. That's configurable for you, however you want to set yours up, however many levels you have there. So that's a nice feature. It's also in the CMS Tech as well. I won't show that, probably won't show that one in CMS Tech, but it also allows the technicians that have trouble maybe clicking on those arrows. If you have Max selected, they can just keep clicking on each one of those items and expanding them until they get down to the one they want. So it stops a lot of errors from what they're having down there. So. All right, let me cancel on this work order. Go back to my search. Another feature we added, we were introducing this right at the end of our last user conference. I don't think it was live yet, but we have our scheduling module. Within our scheduling module, there's 2 icons on here. The first icon actually brings up the schedule. And what this is a list of people that you could assign work orders to. And you have a work order list at the top. You have your list of work orders down here at the bottom. And what the idea is, you take one of your work orders and you can go ahead and drag one of those work orders down. So if I wanted to assign this one too hot in patient room and schedule that one for somebody to check that out. Actually, let's look at this hole in the wall one, because that's one you're probably going to schedule out maybe a little bit further. I'm going to go ahead and drag this down to tomorrow for James Fink. Once I drag that down, it shows up down here under James Fink hole in the wall. Same thing with these heat exchanger ones. If I actually wanted to drag multiple ones, if I wanted to assign these 2 heat exchanger work orders to somebody, I can go ahead and select both of those. And then I can click this button on the toolbar, the little add icon. I can't drag the 2. There's just some issues with where do you click the drag and what happens when you drag those 2. But I could assign those to Marion Jones for the October 1st. I can go ahead into my calendar and I can estimate the hours on those as well. I can hit the plus or minus button to set the estimated hours for a technician. And also if the work order has estimated hours, you could have that carry over. So I'm gonna go ahead and click save there. And those will show up for Marion Jones down here at 10-1. And you'll notice those items were pending in my search. If I can go ahead and click these little 3 dots here, and I can edit that work order. And when I edit the work order, you'll see the status is active. In the configuration of CMS, you can set it up so when you drag an item from the top down to the bottom, if you will, it changes the status of that work order. So you might have a status at the top, a setting that says, hey, show me all the pending ones. And then as you drag those down, show me all the active ones. This search shows me both pending and active, so they won't disappear from up here. But I could have a search that had a different criteria, where as I drag those around, they would change their searches. So a new feature in the work order screen, let me go back to edit that work order. When I edit that work order, there's a work order schedules portal that shows up under the assignment portal. So you could have a different schedule that's a little bit different than the assignment, what date that actually is supposed to be done. And there's a search available in CMS Tech where you could add it in, where it allows you to actually show you just the work that's scheduled for a particular day. So that person, the idea is that person logs into CMS Tech, they see their work orders for that day and move on. One thing you can do within the scheduling is also, you might have a work order that might take multiple days. So if this one's going to take a while, I could actually split that work, and that'll actually create another schedule for that person. So I could schedule it for someone else to help out. So maybe I still want it to go to James Fink, but I want that for tomorrow as well. So he can continue to work on that work order, and the same work order. And that's why there's a separate schedules portal than a different item. I do have a question here. How do you add the schedule option? In the role configuration, it is defined by role who has the scheduling option. So under the role configuration in CMS, that's still in the legacy CMS right now, that's where you would go ahead and configure that option. If I have time to jump over to there, I will. Thank you for the question. Also with the questions, and a schedule is different than just a regular assignment, because you can schedule work orders over multiple days. You can have multiple people work on those items. So you can see it's the same work order number spread across multiple items there. So. Any questions so far? Any other questions on scheduling or work orders? Let me just look real quick at the questions. Okay, there's a couple other questions. I will get to those towards the end when we're talking about those items as well. So thank you for those. Within our assets module, there's not too many changes within our assets module. We do have the ability within assets. Right now, I just have all the assets that are showing warranty expirations. It's one of my safe searches that I have in CMS. We have added a field for asset barcode. And this field right now, it serves one purpose, and we have a new feature under procedures to validate an asset barcode. And I'm going to show you that next. In the future, though, we're going to be using this so you could scan the assets and have a different barcode than the asset number. So if you needed to have an asset number that was, AHU dash building number dash 1234 dash whatever, you could have a smart asset number that's different from the barcode that's on the asset. We do have customers that have a need to do both. And also scanning that barcode, we're adding some functionality to CMS Tech that is going to let you scan the barcode and choose some options. We don't have that available, but that's something that will be coming in the future versions of CMS Tech. So that's what that barcodes feature is used for at the moment. Going down into what the use of that is for, I'm going to switch over to our procedures module. In our procedures module, I have a save search. I just have some barcode procedures that I want to go ahead and talk about. Two of our new procedure readings that we've added. One is that one I just talked about, the barcode feature, the reading for scanning a barcode. So if I look at this procedure, test and verify barcode, I'm going to go ahead and click on the pencil. Within that pencil, within that reading, there's a reading type here, and we have a whole slew of reading types from photos to pass-fail to memo to this one, validate asset barcode. What that does is within CMS Tech, that will have a reading where you have to activate the camera in CMS Tech on the iPad. So you do need the app. It's not something you won't be able to answer this reading in CMS 4 and CMS Tech on the desktop. You do need the CMS Tech app, and you do need to have access to the camera. And it'll require the technician to go ahead and scan that, scan a barcode. It doesn't have to be that asset barcode, because there's some other options. One, you can make this required, so they have to do it. And I would recommend if you're going to make them do that, go ahead and make it required. But secondly, there's an option to allow an invalid barcode. So you might, and there's a reason you would choose one over the other. To allow an invalid barcode, for instance, if the barcode got messed up or wrong, or they couldn't find it, it would still allow them to complete that PM without scanning the right barcode. If you choose no on that option, don't allow an invalid barcode, and it's required, that's the other piece, if it's required as well, they won't be able to complete that work order until they scan that barcode. So if you want to make sure your technicians are getting to that equipment and being physically at the equipment to do that, you can go ahead and put those in. It's designed to stop people from pencil whipping and doing things like that. We do recommend, if you're doing this, to not put man readable. You can't type in that field in CMS Tech. You do have to scan it in. So there's no way to do it other than do a barcode scan field. I see a question there. If the barcode field is blank, but the asset has an FSI barcode, is that the same thing? What we would do is we'd work with you to make sure we populated that barcode field with that asset number. So they would just be duplicates of each other. I think the example I showed had the same number in both of those. So, and we can do that. You don't have to go through each one and edit them. We can help you out with that to set that up. But that's a good idea, though, to have it check either one for those things. So thank you. The other idea, though, is you could hide that barcode field from the technician so they don't see it. It could be a different number than those items. And then you might want to have a barcode on the equipment that doesn't have man-readable numbers, so they couldn't go ahead and just go into Word and create their own barcodes either and sit there. But if you're spending that much time making sure your technicians are working, then you should probably get some new technicians maybe. So the next procedure we added, and this is would be useful for if you wanted to add this test and verify barcode to a number of different procedures. I have another one, this AHU with barcode scan, where I have an air handling procedure, and I just decide, hey, I want the technicians to scan the barcode on there. So if I look at my readings here, I have this test and verify barcode. I'm going to go ahead and look at that reading. The reading type here is insert readings from another procedure. And what it does is when it creates the work order, it's going to go to this procedure, test and verify barcode, and add those readings. So that reading of the scan barcode is going to get added to this work order. And then it'll add the reading for pressure okay, where filter's okay, etc. There's a number of uses for this. One, think of the generators. You have a bunch of generators at your facility. You have, your 20 standard generator questions, but then you have some newer generators that may have, 3 or 4 additional questions for new features of, the good 2020 generators. So backup cameras, all the fun stuff that new generators have. So you can actually, have your standard generator procedure. You would set up your first reading as insert readings from your standard generator procedure, and then just add your supplemental readings after that. That way you have consistency with your readings. All the readings are exactly the same. If you would modify your standard generator procedure, you wouldn't have to modify your 3 or 4 other generator procedures. And I've seen customers with 20 or 30 different generator procedures as well. When this does go ahead and creates a work order, I did create a sample work order already. I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. So let me go back let me close this procedure. And just change that last number on here. So I pull up work order 387916. That procedure that I added on here, when I look at the readings, all I did was add that one procedure to it, but you see the AG with barcode scan has the scan barcode reading, and then my 2 readings that were specific to that procedure. So it's a nice feature. It does replace our procedure library feature that we had a while back before we redid procedures. So if you do have standardized procedures that you want to have be useful for other procedures, and anytime you change that, it would apply to all of those, we do recommend setting up and using that use reading from another procedure. And I think I saw the one customer on here that I know we would like to use that feature if they're not already. Any other questions on procedures? All right, let me get back to work orders here. Within our work orders, if we wanted to go ahead and talk about requisitions, we've introduced a new requisitions module, again, about the same time as this last year. We've ramped up what we can do on a work order itself. So I'm going to go ahead and go into a work order here and take a look at the, and we'll pretend this is a 2-hot work order. Or let me just change the description of this. I just don't want to see foul odor anymore. So within our materials portal down here, previously we only had the charge part, which literally just takes a part out of the inventory, adds it to your work order. So if you have your technicians just going into a room, grabbing a part, adding it to a work order, you would use the charge part button. The order part button is basically creating a new requisition. All the order part and request part buttons do are create new requisitions. Order part, it's been in CMS for a while. It allows you to order a part from a vendor. So if a technician is going in, they're looking up a vendor, they know what they're going to order, they're doing all the busy work and going and ordering those parts, they would use the order part button, choose the vendor, create the requisition, and it would go ahead and whatever process you had in place after that, if someone monitored the requisitions and ordered the parts, or it went to another external system, one of your PeopleSoft or Workday or Lawson or any type of other part ordering system, it would do that at that point. New, we've added the request part. And the request part's designed to be an internal request. So if you have a material warehouse, the idea is your technicians say, hey, I need a part. So they would just say what they need. So there's no vendor on this, just to say for this work order, I need to create these. And you could default the category, the status. It does set the description of the requisition to the work order number in the description. It does fill in and it locks, when you're doing this from a work order, it does lock and make you choose, it's only doing it to this work order. Once I go ahead and save that requisition, I can go and add some parts in. I can choose some part numbers. I'm gonna add a couple thermostat parts. If I go in and let's just say the thermostat's broken, I need to go and get some of these. Oops, I spelled thermostat wrong. Thermostat, and so let's say I need a Honeywell thermostat. I just need one of them. I can go ahead and save that part. I can add another part. Search on the material item. Wow, I'm very bad at typing today. Thermostat cover, I need to cover it up when I'm done. I need one of those as well. I can go ahead and save this, and then I can save my requisition. And then on the work order itself, in the materials portal, I have this parts on order section. This parts on order lets me know that, hey, there are parts on order for this particular work order. At that point, the technician could change the status to active awaiting parts, something along those lines where it's flagged that they know there's waiting for parts. So at this point, again, the idea is, I'm going to go back to my dashboard here. Somebody could be monitoring these things in requisitions. This is the one I just created, the 2-hot. I added the work order requisition. It was requisition number 8. From here, I can go ahead and open this in the requisition as well. If you're familiar with our requisitions module, we had a receive screen in the previous version of requisitions. This one, our requisition, you can either edit the requisition or you can receive directly to the work order itself right from here. So if I edit the requisition, I have 2 options to receive. I can go right to the requisition and I can fill the part with whatever I ordered. I can click the little arrows there and it just lets me pick how many I got. So I could choose one. or I can do it right from the list. I can go right to the list, click on the down arrow, and I can then edit these. I can fill in multiple ones at once. So that's a nicer feature. So if I receive one of these and one of these, and I click save, you'll notice that too, that status changed. It was active, it changed to fully received. As soon as I fully receive all those parts, the requisition automatically updates the status to fully received. So it did that after I saved it. You'll notice that's fully received. There is a status option again in options. There's a way to set that up. So when you do receive all the parts, it sets those to fully received. At that point, if I do go back to the work order, that was 195, I believe. The good thing about creating all these work orders for the demo is I have everything set. Once I receive them, they get charged directly to the work order. So the technician doesn't need to do anything with that. I'll receive them, they go to the work order. The technician can pick them up, go use them on the work order, and they're done. If the technician decides they don't need them, there would be some work to delete those out of there, return them back to stock. You would have to have a process in place for all that, but that's our requisitions in CMS. There is a question, is there a way to link requisitions to Lawson? Yes, and that does require to work with our CMS, with our integration team to get that to happen. So it's an involved process. We've done it for a number of different items. Everybody uses Lawson a bit differently. So there's no definite like, yes, we have this, you just plug this in and it works. We do work with you, what type of fields do you need? There's a lot of mapping of parts, how often do the parts come across the CMS? So we do integrations. We have a number of them in place with different systems. So we can work with you on that, Christina. Thank you for the question. Any other questions on CMS? I'm going to show you our call center software now. Our previous edition of our call center is going away. So I'm going to go ahead and log into our call center software as myself here, or as Mike Miller. And the way our call center works is it's completely configurable. We have a couple of different things. Let me go ahead and click on the plus button to show the screen. Our previous version of a call center, the fields were in a fixed order. You couldn't change, you couldn't add new fields, you couldn't remove them. So we made a new one that's completely configurable. I could have 2 or 3 sections in here. So I could have, if I wanted the call information, depending on your call workflow, if that came through, I can go ahead and set up, if you're asking, hey, what's your problem? What's the description? Where are you? And then you ask your name. This is set up for that order. But if you ask their name first, you have the ability to rearrange these so your call center staff can answer the questions, or it doesn't even have to be a call center staff. It could be 1 or 2 people in your front office that are taking calls. This could be an easier way for them to take calls. The call center also lets you manage multiple calls at once. You have in-progress calls. So as you're working on calls that are in progress, you'll be able to switch back and forth between those ones to go ahead and manage them. So if the phones are ringing off the hook, you could start some calls and go and finish up some of the information later. One of the benefits of the call center is this literally shows locations from all the different segments that I have configured to use this. So I have my medical center offsites. I have some other areas around. We use Pittsburgh as a demo area where we're based out of. So I have Erie, Wexford, some different areas around the Pittsburgh area that I could choose those. When I go ahead and choose one of those locations, if I go to medical center, I can go to Bettis Tower, I can go to first floor, and I can browse through all the room numbers. The nice thing is if you have all your room numbers in here, let me close that out. I'm going to go ahead and just pick a room number. I'm going to use 1185 as my room. That's a restroom in the Bettis Tower. I'm going to go ahead and click that. When I go ahead and choose that, it knows what facility it goes to. So this is going to route the call to the correct facility. So if you have all your locations set up, buildings that are in different segments within CMS, you can have it go to the right areas within CMS. I'm going to go ahead and choose a common problem. I'm going to click the toilet clogged. I'm going to go ahead and toilet clogged. I'm going to say that's install 2. Be real specific on where that is. I can put my name, my phone number. It does default based on whatever common problem, the status, the category, all those things in there. And then I go ahead and save that call. And then as a call center person, I have the ability to review my calls, the calls that I put in. As a call center manager, if I have a bunch of staff putting in calls, I can look at all the different submitted calls in there as well. So That's just a brief overview of our call center. We'll be replacing our other call center as well. So if you're using that old call center, I will advise you to reach out to us to help you get that new one configured. Any questions on the call center? I wanted to just go through that one fairly quickly there. I do have a question. Is a call center a separate subscription? If you're currently using our call center, the answer to that is no. Is there a call center iPad app? The answer is also it's a desktop app only, just due to the way we have to handle. We designed it around larger customers with hundreds of thousands of locations to make it speedy. So we would not recommend using that on an iPad. But thank you. So I'm going to go into CMS Tech, and actually let me just look real quick on this call center. 199 CMS tech.faxer.com. And since I was already logged in, as I mentioned, that once you're logged in to one of our applications, as you go to the different applications, it'll log you in automatically. So you can see I just went to CMS Tech. That logged me right into CMS Tech. I do have a saved search that shows me pending work orders. And I did this way. This is the work order I just created today at 1:32. I'm going to go ahead and click that pencil. When I go and pull that up, and if I go into CMS View, if you have CMS View configured and you use our areas to locate that work order and you pick a room from the dropdown S1185, it will put the icon in the room where that's located. So that's a feature we've added into CMS. Previously, CMS View, it would locate the icon. You'd have to place the icon. If you're creating a work order, you can place the icon. But if you have all your rooms in dropdowns, and that's a reason that you might want to use dropdowns within CMS, you can have that icon go right to there. So if you do have a zone assignment, is somebody getting assigned to these or looking for these or looking at these work orders, they can go right to their CMS View map and see where those service calls are and maybe tackle them in order rather than running all over the floor. So it's a nice feature within CMS View that lets you use that a feature within the call center within our new online request screen, which is going to come out. That's going to do that same thing as well. So going into some other changes that are in CMS Tech. CMS Tech's not as many as what was in CMS. All those requisition features, adding part, charging part, all those things are in CMS as well. Something we added under the My Profile. So if you click on your name, you go to My Profile. CMS Tech users now have the ability to change their password. So they would have to type in their old password and then confirm the new password twice. So it's something if you're just having people log into CMS Tech, and as someone who's trained technicians, I would have to show them all CMS Tech and then, hey, if you want to change your password, you got to go here and do that. Now you can do that right from within CMS Tech. So that's a nice feature there. Something else within CMS Tech. Let me go back to work orders and click on the pending work orders. Let me open up that toilet clog work order. We added the ability to print from CMS Tech. So it'll print just the standard, I think it's the quick print report that comes up when you print CMS Tech. It'll just generate a PDF. Obviously, you'd have to have, if you're on an iPad, you would have to have your iPad configured to see a printer somewhere along the lines. These are the printers I have on my item. I have my default saved as a PDF because I don't particularly print that much anymore. So that's another user requested feature. We thought CMS Tech would live without having to print work orders anymore, but there's still a need for somebody to print a work order as well. Also within CMS, we've added a few things to the asset screen. Let me switch over to assets. Click on the hamburger button to switch modules. Now I'm looking at list of assets. One thing is we added the ability, you don't save them in CMS Tech, but we have the ability to create searches. When you create saved searches in CMS4, those searches are now available to you in CMS Tech. So you can use them if you needed assets you needed to verify for some reason. You could set a bunch of statuses to needs verified, make a saved search for needs verified in the Pittsburgh Tower, then somebody can work from that list of assets to go ahead and verify those. So I have my warranty expirations, that same saved search that I had on here. You have that ability to use those there in CMS. Excuse me for 1 second. Also on the asset screen itself, we added a notes tab. This is the notes portal that are on the asset. So if you did have to have notes about that particular asset, Let me see what I have here. That is a air handler. If I wanted to put a note, sent renewal to vendor for new warranty, I can go ahead and add that note, and that note becomes part of the assets in the notes portal. Previously, that just didn't exist. It was something we missed when we were doing the item there. All we had before was just this general notes, which is designed for your, some standard information about the asset, maybe some nameplate data that we don't have fields for, something along those lines. So those are some changes there to CMS view. I'm going to go back and review a couple questions. I think I missed a couple of these when we were talking about some of the other modules. One question: can you use requisitions on both request part and order part? Both of those are requisitions. So they both create requisitions. There are two types of requisitions. One's a vendor requisition, and that's the order part, and one's a warehouse requisition, which is the request part. Let me switch back to CMS real quick. When you're doing a requisition search, you do have the ability to search just warehouse requisitions or just vendor requisitions. So depending on what they click, if they click that order part or request part, those are the different types of requisitions that are there. So the next section, I missed one on back to call center. For assignment, is there ability to add a team on assignments? Currently, there's no team to assign it to within CMS Tech, so we don't have that. I don't believe we have that ability. We could put that in as an enhancement, though, for something to give that ability in CMS Tech. Another good question here, all great questions, by the way. Can you hide the change password button in CMS Tech if they're using SSO? We can't right now. That's something we could also add as a requisition. However, if they change their password, it really wouldn't do anything. So it would just still require them to use SSO to log in to there. So the next item: can you print the floor plan when using CMS View? That's something that will be coming. We've added that recently to our rounding program to print from CMS View. We've also added it to our space management, which I'll be showing as well. So that'll be coming soon. There's two questions there on printing from within CMS View. So. All right, so a couple of changes to rounding as well. If you're using our rounding software, let me switch over to CMS rounding. I do have this in another demo here. So within rounding, some things we've added in are, let me get my, our clipboard feature. So our clipboard feature, we have the ability to have different checklists, and I set these up to generate every couple minutes here, so I didn't answer them all. But you have the ability to create questions that if someone is going to go around to certain areas or certain assets or engineering rounds and check items, this is one designed for somebody to make sure they're going and cleaning on items here. So, if all the surfaces have been wiped down, is everything being cleaned in this particular lobby? They might have somebody wanted to make sure they're doing this every hour. And that's not something you do easily with a work order or even within a round. They're going to go in a very specific work order and say that they did these things and emptied the trash and all those, and they're going to go ahead and complete that inspection. And they're going to go back, 15 minutes, an hour later, they're going to go ahead to that next one. And this has the ability to look at previous values too. So these are the ones that are for 6 p.m., 9 a.m. I can look at the different values for each of those, and I can scroll through and see what the previous readings are. So our clipboards are designed sort of for, here's a very specific things you're going to go and check in this order. You could actually think of it as a clipboard. And within our setup of our clipboard, if I look at the public space checklist and look at my history of this particular item from yesterday through today, and I submit that, I could see, and it might have been a little bit further back, I could see all the answers. So this would show me literally, if I had one a day for a month, I would have 30 columns here. I could export this to Excel and show all these columns. I could see when the person, when it came out, when the person completed that, and what the answers were. So for all those clipboard inspection points, you could have hundreds of inspection points through here as they're going through and doing these things for them. And clipboards can generate at the minute basis. I forget what the minimum is, and if you had a question on that, feel free to reach out, because I don't have that handy at the moment. But when you're doing the clipboard setup, real quick on that, you could set up how often you want that to come out. I believe I set that up to come out every 30 minutes, just so I can have some clipboard examples to show. And this is where you set up which items you want to have there in the clipboard. Also within rounding itself, let me go back to the home on the rounding. Within CMS View, if you're using our CMS View option for rounding, and you're creating findings on the floor plan, and let me go ahead and create some findings here on the floor plan. Let's just say that there's a fire door here that's still being blocked. So I am doing my EOC round. I'm going to go ahead and do the door. So fire and smoke doors are not blocked or wedged open. I could put, hey, somebody put a trash can in front of the door. They wanted to prop it open. And then I could submit that finding. It adds that onto my list. And then I go and look, I go down the hall and see another one. There's another one propped open. I go ahead and click create a new finding again. And then let me find a door there that's on this wall. Click on there. It remembers which round you are and what your last library item was. So if you find a bunch of, if you're doing it one particular round and go around and finding things, you don't have to pick the round every time. And you also don't have to load the libraries every time. I go back to these libraries, I could choose a different library. So it's a lot it's a big time saver for you if you're entering findings from View. Previously, you had to select this round and library item each time you went ahead and added a finding. So we just streamlined that a little bit. We also added the ability on the app, I think the camera shows up here too, but the ability to add attachments. So if you do if you do take a photo or something outside of CMS and need to attach it or need to attach a different type of file, we have that ability as well on the finding. So we've really improved some of the things we do on our findings as well. So, something that's coming soon as well, I don't have the ability to show that though, but the emails that go out, you will have the ability to customize those yourselves. So you can put your own wording and your own spin on the emails. That should be coming out soon. So keep your eye on our release notes. That's if you're not signed up for release notes, I think it's on some of our signatures on our email to go ahead and sign up for those. So. All right, any questions on rounding? All right, let me go back into, let me close the call center here. Go to another tab. Let me go into Space Manager. So we have a new product here, Space Management. I'm going to go to space.faxer.com. And what this is basically, it's our locations, but locations represented on a floor plan. So within our space management application, these are the same locations that I was looking at with our location portal. Anything you're choosing from here, these are our locations. So I'm in the Bettis Cancer Tower, second floor, all the different fields that are available. I have the ability to show and hide fields on here, what I can see. But the real power within space management is our floor plan view. So if I click on our floor plan view of Space Manager, what this lets us do is show different attributes of the space directly on the floor plan. So here's our second floor. Let me zoom in a little bit here. So if I needed to see all the occupied rooms or all the vacant rooms, I need to see which room I need to find a place to put somebody, I can click on the vacant over here on my status and see that these rooms are vacant. So I can go ahead and maybe assign an occupant to them or see what they need to do. I can go ahead and select multiple of these values. If I wanted to see a rainbow, I can click the select all. It would show me the statuses of all these rooms here. Not only do I have status, let me clear that. I have the ability to look at other attributes, including user-defined fields. Our space manager allows you to add user-defined fields to each location, each room, based on room category. So we added things like paint color. So if you were looking at doing a painting project and all the rooms were a certain color, I want to see all the ones that were mulberry silk. Let's just say somebody new took over and they hate mulberry silk. You can identify all the areas that are painted in mulberry silk and come up with a plan for somebody to repaint those areas. Again, I could do select all. I can select multiple colors. Unfortunately, the colors don't match what the colors are. So that before anyone asks that question, they don't match there. Some other things we have a utilization field, which lets you pick, and we're recommending using the FGI standards for utilization type. So if you wanted to see all the support area staff, all the staff offices where the staff does their stuff, those are highlighted here in orange. If I wanted to see all the examination rooms, those would be in green. So again, applying industry standard terms to all these as well. If you needed to, we also added a calculator feature. If I go ahead and choose my calculator feature, this lets me choose different rooms. So if I was going to do a renovation up in here and I needed 10,000 square feet or 1,000 square feet of space to do something, let's just say 1,000 because it's close. Here I am at 922. If I add this room in here, I might be right, getting closer to 1,000. But what do I need to, if I need to knock some walls out and build a 1,000-room suite, where can I do that at? What do I need to highlight to do that? And it tells me too, whatever attribute I have selected, there's 146 in public areas, a 21-foot electrical or environmental closet, and just 770 square feet of office. Maybe I add 1 or 2 more offices in the storage area, and that gets me to what I need. Maybe I can't take that electric or EVS closet out, so I can deselect that and go into there. And then I can also print a report. Scroll down here on the bottom left. If I click my PDF summary report, it will create a PDF of whatever I have selected, whatever's in the room. So those of you who asked the questions about CMS View, this is where I could say it will be coming at some point, but it's printing the rooms now. It's going to go ahead and generate a PDF for me. Whenever that happens, I will drag that window over. And just like that, it's like a cake on the food channel. It shows me my drawing with my rooms highlighted, and then how many, whatever values that I had selected, how many square feet that is. That's on page 2 of the drawing. So it's sort of a neat feature with our CMS space management item. So again, it lets you visualize some attributes of the room, including user-defined fields. Also, I can click on that if I need to change a room or change an occupant. I go ahead and click on one of those rooms. Oops, I'm in calculator mode still. Let me exit out of calculator mode. And I go ahead and click on S2513. It's the same edit location screen that'll be available to you coming within our admin console, which is going to be coming out as well, where you can go ahead and edit the attributes of the location, including those user-defined fields, set them to visible, searchable, show an online requests, some of the features you're used to on our locations right now. So that's our space management program in a nutshell. Question, hi George, where does the data for the occupancy status come from? We are preloading that from, like I said, we're trying to recommend using the FGI standards. That's something we're working with the industry initiative to get those loaded in for customers so they have those available. It's something right now we don't have a tie into those, but that's something we're looking at doing. You could surely build those yourself if you didn't want to use those standards as well. So. All right, finally, and I know there's a question right at the beginning about analytics, so I'm going to go into our analytics module. And if you recall, if you were at our last user conference, we had offered for customers to join a panel where we had, I think, 4 or 5 meetings where we defined what do you want to see in analytics? What are you trying to analyze within CMS? And what could we build for you? So when you get analytics right out of the box, it's just not some, hey, here's all the data, go figure it out. So we came out with our analytics package. And what I'm showing you is our standard analytics items. So as this loads up, it's showing our customer satisfaction tab. And what this does is across all your facilities, there's a number of different areas. I'm going to touch on a few of them and hopefully have some time for questions here. And it's just for anyone who could stay after 2, I will be available. We're not ending right at 2, so I'll be around if you need to ask, if you need to get some questions answered, but I do want to finish going through this. So, but you have the ability to look under certain periods. So I can look at the last 4 weeks, the last 12 weeks, the last week, and I can see how things change. So if I wanted to see a trend over the last 12 weeks, you'll see some of these numbers change. So my response rate, you can see it's actually different. And then there's also some comparison values of 26 weeks earlier. So it's saying, hey, I was getting a response rate of 4.1. Now I'm at 2.9. What's going on here? I can also see by requester. You can see by people's names, who's requesting and whether or not they have positive or negative responses. You can see right here that, Fred, we're not keeping Fred happy. Fred only has 27.3 responses. And I can actually go ahead and drill down into Fred. If I right click on Fred over here, right click and choose drill through, I'm actually able to see the survey feedback from the current period and see which ones he's answering yes, no, where he's answering bad quality too. So as I go and scroll through those, I have the ability to go through and look at those. So it's more than just static data. It's more than just reports. You can actually drill through a lot of these things and get these things set up. There's a number of different areas here under the analytics menu. Once you're within analytics, you have the menu available. Some ones I like to show off are the productivity. The productivity is a really cool one. Within productivity, it shows you, things like average hours, how much time spent within a particular area. So if somebody, what your technicians are doing. Let me get that loaded up here. And just keep in mind, this is going through lots and lots of data, years worth of data in here that is pulling up. But you see things like average hours for working days, average hours for non-working days. So your weekdays versus weekends. You could also limit if you just wanted to see the Pittsburgh Medical Center. If I highlight this down here, it'll change everything to just show me data for the medical center. So I'm not analyzing all these things. If I just wanted to see Hendricks County, I could do that as well. So it gives you the ability to compare across your segments, across your facilities, see how many people are charging hours and how they're doing, how different trades are doing across the board. I also have the ability to look at work volume. Here's average hours per day, in comparison to some other items. Again, the same, do you want to look at the last 4 weeks, just the last week, how are you improving? If I switch over to work volume, I can see how many work orders we're getting. This work volume shows somebody that looks to be generating work orders on a monthly basis. So you can see the spikes in there and how many completed work orders you have, how many open work orders you have, your net completion, the different types of work orders, how many were received, how many were completed. All those things you're probably running reports and running safe searches in CMS or running things and trying to tabulate data. Our analytics package does a lot of those things out of the box for you. Even our work nature was a cool one as well that shows you your reactive versus proactive work. Distribution of labor charges by all your data, if you have, and we categorize our categories under reactive and proactive with our service requests, statuses, all those things, and you're able to go ahead and you could sort on all these as well. So you could sort and show the most recent ones, the different values here. So if I sort on these, I'm able to see which ones are I'm doing better at, which ones I'm doing worse at. Finally, under analytics, we have our ITM reliability. That was your inspection, testing, and maintenance. Again, our last session in our user experience series. But the inspection, test, and maintenance section lets you look at your assets and lets you see which assets might not be scheduled and which assets may or may not have schedules associated with them. It shows you where you're, and we call it reliability in your ITM program. It shows you where you might have holes in procedure, where you might have mismatched procedures, where you might have things that, you have a fire door with an exit sign inspection. That would be a mismatch procedure. Things with inactive schedules, all these types of things as well. I could drill into my category. If I just wanted to see a fire pump, I can go ahead and scroll down into my fire protection somewhere, and here's fire pump. Or something else I could do. Yeah, here we go, fire pump. And I could just look at my fire pumps across my facilities and see, do I have things on here? So I see I might have a missing schedule here. I have my quarterly sprinkler testing, my sprinkler annual, things associated with those. So I'm able to drill down and look at where I have missing data, where I have mismatched data within analytics. Let me hit through a couple of questions. We got 4 minutes left here. I know that one of our first questions there were analytics questions. The analytics is a separate module. You do need to work with our sales team to talk about how we implement analytics for you. There is a separate cost for this, but it is a very powerful item. I would say if you're interested in analytics, definitely attend the session. I think it's 2 weeks out about how analytics is, how WVUs use analytics to save themselves money. Let me see if there's any question about analytics. Is it Power BI or Tableau based? It is Power BI based. So, quick answer to that one. Going back, manage users in call center. Right now, all of our user management is still in CMS under our users module. So the question about where you manage the users, that's currently in CMS. So you go to our users module, and that's where you manage all the users. That's where you give them the rights to the different you give them a role. The roles still aren't over here yet, but you give them a different role. You would make a call center role and probably assign those users to that call center to give them whatever rights you needed to give them there in the call center. The same thing with the role configuration for the other item I mentioned earlier. So hopefully I answered your question there. One question here, when making a work order in the cost center section, will there be a way to just type the building name and have the cost center numbers drop down, or would always way that you have to physically go to the cost center number? So I think what you're asking is if you're making a work order, oops, not in work order module. First of all, go to the work order module. If you can associate locations with cost centers, it's one of the reasons we flip-flop these fields a while back, because when you do choose a location that has a cost center defined, and let me go, I'm not sure which ones do, but it does fill in the cost center for you automatically if that's filled in. So there's a definite order to how you want to go ahead and fill those in when you're doing that. So. Then finally, when will the abilities to add to CMS4, such as adding vendors, inventory? We are still working on a plan to get all those in. Something we're doing with our configuration options is we're working in those into our admin console. We're trying to get you to go to your CMS4 application instead of going to both. We do understand that is frustrating for you, so we are working to make that easier. I think if you look at what we have here, there's a couple of modules we have, and the question is about vendors, inventory, those major modules. That's our companies module, our materials module, and our projects module. I think our three major modules that we're working on, and we're starting work this year, Q4, and those hopefully, barring any other changes or other things we decide might add value to customers. We're hoping to have those done shortly after that. So we are working on those. We hope to be out of that whole, which one do I go to find those items. We're even looking at having, menus that would go to those other items now, because, with our unified login, which we just created, I can make a menu that says go to companies, and it would just load the old company screen in another tab. So at least you only have to go to one place to work from. You don't have to keep logging in the different areas there. So. Hopefully I answered that question, and it is 2 o'clock, so I would like to thank everybody for joining. I will stick around if there's any other additional questions, but thank you very much. I appreciate it, and have a good day. I will say, now that I've been doing Teams calls and other calls, when everyone says bye, it's like, okay, which window is my hang up button in? And people can't find it anymore. So it looks like a little bit of what's happened now. You're like, okay, bye. It's like, then everyone's still talking while you're looking for that leave button. No more questions? Remember to use the Q&A section. All right, thanks everyone. Thanks. Yeah, I did have a lot to cover. I started running out of time towards the end, so apologize if it went a little fast. But you said it's normally 3 hours worth of stuff in an hour. We know people aren't going to watch a webinar for 3 hours. So, all right, I'll keep the meeting open. Angie, is there anything we need to get out of the meeting, the questions or anything like that? I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. I forgot to start that.